Instead of constantly doing more and more and splitting your focus across multiple things, it's about focusing in on the things that you already do well, but better.
This is the B2B Performance Marketing Podcast by Webmarketer, here to help you make the right moves with your B2B advertising. No spin, no smoke and mirrors, just honest insights from the advertising front line. Welcome back. This is the first episode we're recording in 2026, so Happy New Year, and I hope you had a great festive break. This might all feel a little bit late because while we're recording in early January, we're probably going to be releasing it later in the month. But we wanted to start the year by diving into what we're going to be focusing on over the next 12 months, so kind of like an inside access episode. Before we get into it, Maelien, how was your break? You had a bit of a special one this year, didn't you? Do you want to share what you got up to?
Yeah, it was really nice, thanks. So we decided to go to Florida to spend time with our grandparents and family. And Florida, if you don't know, is really sunny all year round. So we got to enjoy some sunny weather over the Christmas period, which was lovely. That being said, we weren't looking forward to bringing our boy Ellis over, who's coming up to 2, but he's got the energy of a monkey, and we're kind of looking at it and thinking, how are we going to survive this flight? But actually, it turned out that was completely unfounded, and the journey went really smoothly, even though it was a 15-hour plus journey on the way out. And that just meant that we could enjoy the rest of the holiday really nicely. We crammed absolutely tons in, from going to Disney to going to see alligators down the Everglades to seeing manatees. And all told, even though it wasn't, your sunny white Christmas, it was a really nice time. Thanks for asking. How did you enjoy your break, Louis?
Yeah, mine was very different. Very jealous of your experience. It sounded amazing. So it was quite quiet. It was a lot of family time, a lot of board games, bike rides, lots of food, snow fights, which was novel, which was great, and a lot of time for thinking too. Plenty of time to mull things over. In fact, enough time to have a bit of a wobble over the Christmas break. I managed to get it into my head that we didn't have something distinctive to keep clients around for the long term, something like a proprietary metric or a custom toolkit or a signature framework, kind of like a bit of a badge for this is how we do things different. When you zoom out and look at the way we work, we do have quite a big focus on kind of ethics and transparency. So things like making sure that clients have unrestricted access and full ownership of all of their properties. So I'm talking things like ad accounts, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager. And we work to very short contracts too. So initially, when a new client joins us, they are contracted to a period of 6 months. So enough time to show signs of life. And then after that, we move on to a rolling monthly contract on 30 days notice. I've been told by loads of agency owners that I'm mad for doing that, and that we should be working to a minimum 12-month engagement, mostly for commercial security. But I've always felt really, really strongly that clients should be able to stay because they want to and not because they're locked in. I think it's second nature to double guess yourself sometimes, but I also think it's really important to stick to your core values. And that's really where this idea of having something distinctive was coming from. We're not going to change the contracts. We're not going to suddenly lock clients out of their accounts. But do we have something unique and compelling enough for clients to stick around? Now, when I started Webmarketer back in 2018, it was my first business. And one of my big regrets, well, maybe regrets is too strong, but something that I kind of have always wished that I did differently with my hobbies was not staying self-taught for so long. Now, I've always loved that process of figuring things out for yourself. But when I was younger, I played a lot of basketball, and I keep thinking that I'd wish I'd played for a structured and competitive team and had a coach earlier. And I've been playing guitar for around 25 years now, and I also wish that I'd had a teacher earlier in that process too. Just because I unknowingly skipped a number of really critical steps, I didn't develop certain skills that I needed, and also I committed a lot of bad habits to be muscle memory.
And just a note on the basketball, maybe if you'd have got a coach sooner, you could have beat me in a game.
Yeah, so for context, you probably already know that Maelien and me are brothers. He's 7 years younger than me, and he did have very good coaching, played for a good team, played for Wales, and he does like to remind me quite often that I started refusing to play him when I was in my later teens. Maybe things could have been different.
I mean, that being said, though, you are an absolute beast at Celtic guitar, where you decided to get a coach early on, and I wouldn't be able to touch you on that.
As you can tell, we're not competitive at all. But following on from that, within the first 6 months of starting up the business, I decided to bring a coach on board, and we've been working with the brilliant Cassandra Boddington ever since. In our first coaching session of the year, I brought this little wobble to the table, and thankfully, it turns out that I was wrong. It was a textbook case of trying to solve a problem that didn't exist, which I'm pretty sure we've all been guilty of before at some point. So I was worried about retention when, in reality, clients stay with us for 2 years or more. And as we began unpacking that further, we started to realize what our secret sauce was, which is this idea of partnership working. We invest a lot of time really learning about our clients and their business, their commercial strategy, their targets, their audience, and what they like and how they do things. We know how busy it is in the marketing space, and we really don't want to be time bandits. So we always try to minimize the amount of time and effort it takes to work with us. So if we can spend an extra 15 minutes and save them an hour, then it's an absolute no-brainer. So this carries through into things like drafting ads. We want there to be as few revisions as possible because we know with every revision, a client is having to spend time looking through every iteration and suggesting changes. So we really have to be on top of what they like and also what works from a performance perspective too.
On top of that, I think it never feels good as a client when you get some ad text through and it doesn't feel like anything that you'd say yourself. And I really believe that the client probably feels like they just don't get us. And so for this reason, we always want to get it as close to right as possible the first time.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so all of this in mind, I parked the shiny object syndrome and made this the anchor for how we want to approach this year. So our focus for 2026 sits under 2 themes. The first one is partnership working, or what I'm going to be calling embrace the boutique. In the early days of WebMarketer, I thought really hard on how to productize everything, basically how to make it all scalable and repeatable. And I learned pretty quickly that if you're focused on results, and that's a really core part of what we do, then using a cookie cutter approach only gets you so far. This reminds me of a story that I love, and I think it's Albert Einstein, but please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. He set an exam paper for a class that he was lecturing, and he got challenged on it because all of the questions were exactly the same as they were the year before. But his response to that challenge was brilliant. He said something like, yes, the questions are all the same, but the answers have changed. Now, if you're chasing true scalability, you're looking for answers that are the same every time because that's infinitely repeatable. But in boutique scalability, which is kind of what we've implemented over time, you have to accept that you can ask the same questions, but the answers will change. And as a result, the solution and the work will be unique in most instances. And I guess this willingness for flexibility has meant that we've ended up in quite a lot of partnership working scenarios over the last year or two. We've been pulled into a lot of collaborative projects, so working with businesses like web designers, developers, SEO specialists, marketing consultants, and so on. As an example of this, we joined forces with a web design studio, so Waters Creative, and an SEO agency, Visit Digital, and we worked with Marston's to launch a brand new careers website. As part of this, we brought our analytics and tracking expertise to evolve their measurement capabilities, and we also brought our advertising and CRO knowledge to make sure all of the pages were optimized for paid traffic. Now, we always like to do as thorough a job as possible, and it was great. Last week, we were kind of working on this new campaign, and I was asked about the quality of the applicants from paid traffic that were coming through. And after doing this work, I was actually able to go to Google Analytics and pull out the application IDs from the paid ads for them to go and explore how far they were getting down the hiring process. So that's going to be a big focus going forward, because as an advertising specialist, you have to be a little bit of a lot of things. So a little bit of a data scientist, a little bit of a project manager, a little bit of a copywriter, a little bit of a developer, a little bit of an accountant, a little bit of a marketing consultant, and loads of other things. So I've made a commitment to staying in my lane a little bit less and going outside of my scope if it helps the client in the longer term. The second theme is enablement. So what can we do internally to make it easier for good work to happen? And in this view, my first victim is going to be ClickUp. ClickUp works fine. It's a great piece of software, but it is well overdue an overhaul for how we've set it up to support the team better. I'm going to make it cleaner and simplify it to reduce task overwhelm and also to make use of more of the features like capacity tracking. And the big challenge is doing all of that without compromising on the quality of work we do, which is a definite no-go. The other big thing then is our data infrastructure. So it looks nice and clean from a client's perspective, which is obviously the main thing. But when you get under the bonnet, it's a bit like Frankenstein's monster. We've got Supermetrics feeding a dedicated Google Sheet for each advertising channel that a client has. This then gets normalized in a master Google Sheet where we add budgets and targets and blend all the data together. And this is what creates the document that we use to monitor progress, to check performance, and also to log monthly performance trends as well. This doc is then also the data source for our Looker Studio dashboards, which is where we house our weekly and monthly reports for clients. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not broken. It works really, really well. And we've actually been complimented on how well thought out it is, but it is fragile and it takes a lot of time to manage. So this year, we're going to be looking at migrating over to BigQuery. That means capturing more data more easily, analyzing it faster, backing up the data, and also massively reducing the time cost of change, like when a client adds or removes an advertising channel. I'm also going to be exploring merging HubSpot pipeline data with ads performance data so we can get more of a downstream insight at our fingertips, because we've been doing more and more of that as the years have gone by. The big win here is that we're going to be able to build custom trackers, custom toolkits, and have downstream reporting at our fingertips so we can measure ROI much easier. So the bottom line is that 2026 is going to be a year of focusing on cleaning up our approach so that it takes us less time and effort to execute the good stuff, freeing up time to embrace the boutique more fully and creating a more custom and more hands-on approach for our clients, as that's the reason that they're sticking around for so long.
I honestly think this is going to resonate with a lot of people listening. Marketing is so busy and it's just going to get busier. There's always something new, something shiny, something else that you feel like you should be doing or that you're pushed to do. And it can feel like you're stuck on this hamster wheel, just pedaling your feet, trying to keep up. What you're talking about here feels a little bit like the opposite of that. It's taking a step back and realizing that the things that make you unique and make a difference are often already there, hiding in plain sight. Instead of constantly doing more and more and splitting your focus across multiple things, it's about focusing in on the things that you already do well, but better. Making sure that you're more intentional about the things that make you stand out and the activities that support it. So I definitely agree. This year should be one about simplifying and doubling down on what we already do well. Making sure that we deeply understand our clients, their business, their customers, and the language that they use, and that everything that we do for them reflects that. So I hope this can be a year for you to lessen the chaos and double down on what makes you unique. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give us a follow and leave us a review. It really helps us out. And if you've got a focus for 2026 that you'd like to cover, let us know on webmarketeruk.com/topic and put it forwards for a future episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.